Hello and happy spring to everybody. I really hope you're doing well in spite of all the drama happening in our world. I have talked in the past about the effort going on to get control over the entire planet and everyone on it. I've also mentioned that there are people, other types of humans who are behind this effort. And those other humans have some very advanced tools and highly developed forms of consciousness. They are pulling the strings and supporting the people that we see out in front. Those are people like Peter Thiel, Elon Musk, Netanyahu, and others. But what those poor souls out in front don't realize is that once they have cemented the control grid and it's in place and working, those front people are often eliminated, and lesser people, AI, and even robots are put in place to run things. So there are other off-planet groups trying to help us, but all of this, plus the war and all the drama happening, is creating chaos. And it brought some questions for this month. So let's begin. The questions asked were, number one, what is the next step in the Great Awakening taking place on Earth? There is a Great Awakening occurring. Question number two, there's a lot of talk about disclosure coming soon. If and when that happens, what is the best way to recognize and deal with ETs and what they represent? Wow. Question number three, what do the cards have to say about artificial intelligence and robots? And question number four, everything feels uncertain, chaotic, and out of balance. What advice does the animal kingdom have for us to help get back in balance, stay centered, and remain confident in getting to a world of peace, of fun, and some stability, at least some stability? So the cards drawn, card number one was the Page of Swords. It's quite a message here. Card number two was the Lovers, number 6 in the major arcana. Card number 3 was the 6 of Cups. It's kind of like, oh, wow. Okay. And the last card from the animal kingdom, the Fox. Whoa. We've had some pretty strong messages from the animal kingdom, and this is no exception. So I hope we're paying attention. Okay. So let's look at these a little bit more deeply. So question number one, what is the next step in the Great Awakening taking place on Earth? And the card drawn here was the Page of Swords. This card carries a powerful message in answer to that question, and that message is twofold. First, hang on to what brings you clarity. Wow. And the second part of the message, you are sovereign, and you're developing a masterful, innovative way of dealing with the aerial forces of life. So what are the aerial forces of life? They are the pool of thoughts, perspectives, words, ideas, and messages that we are swimming in, and that give meaning to our lives and shape the direction we're going in. Those are the aerial forces. Air is about thoughts. Okay? So what this is telling us is that our next step is to remain clear, to remember that we are the ones shaping our destiny, and that what we are learning at this step in the process is all the ways that we are affected by media, propaganda, ideology, words, and messages from the people we listen to. So we are learning to recognize that somebody's trying to manipulate our feelings using words, media, messages, etc., because feeling drives thinking, not the other way around. Feeling drives thinking, and thinking drives action. So implied in this card is that we are still learning and no action is required yet. When you look at the card, you see a figure holding a sword, with both hands as if ready to strike. His hair is tied back and yet is blowing in a fierce wind. And he is standing on a small hillock of green and yellow. He wears a violet tunic, gray leggings, and red boots. The tip of the sword is outside the frame of the picture, indicating that we may not yet be able to conceive of how much our thinking and perception will change as we go through this process. The sky has big gray clouds in it. There's a flock of birds flying high above. A couple of trees are bent in the wind, and there are blue mountains in the distance. The figure holding the sword is standing firmly on one leg, and the other leg looks like it's providing balance and is possibly ready to take a step when needed. And this tells us that in the Great Awakening, we have one leg firmly under us. And another step is coming once we master the lessons of sovereignty and clarity. Violet, he wears a violet tunic, and violet is a color representing advanced consciousness. That violet tunic symbolizes reaching beyond the naive beliefs and the common stories that used to explain everything for us, and that satisfied our need for understanding as well as belonging. The gray leggings back that up, as gray indicates a little bit of detachment, but carries the warning to continue to pay attention, keep watching. This means watching and learning without getting tangled in old shoulds and shouldn'ts or do's and don'ts. Just observe. The green and yellow hillock that he's standing on indicates that gradual personal growth is taking place. And that growth lifts thinking, lifts perspective, and brings fresh and even surprising ideas. The yellow symbolizes a timid, very timid search for meaning. And when consciousness shifts, all new meanings appear, and those meanings must be examined and integrated. Yellow is also said to be just one step away from gold, and gold symbolizes an advanced state of consciousness. The hair is tied back on the figure, and this says that people are acting with restraint. Hair symbolizes thinking, okay? It's like, and it's good that it also enforces just watch, just observe. So we are holding back at the moment, but because the hair is blowing wildly in the fierce wind, it tells us that part of the reason people are acting with great restraint may be because of the wild uncertainty of what they are hearing and thinking. Discerning what is true, what is real, and what is just manipulation is part of the next step for us. The clouds in the bright blue sky symbolize a stormy atmosphere all around, but a potential for clearing with the right thinking. The clouds reach right down to the horizon, right down to the earth. And because they extend across most of the horizon, it says we may experience this storm for a while yet. We can't yet see a point where it stops, where the confusion and the cloudy, the stormy atmosphere ends. The horizon is not clear. The birds flying high above represent an unsettled mind, lots of unsettled minds, unsettled hearts and spirits, and birds in the sky tell us that there will be a need for intuitive, creative thinking outside the birdcage of everyday life. The birds also warn against distraction. Don't allow the mind to flutter around and lose focus. The birds remind us that we should be watching, learning, and coming to a clear understanding of what is happening. And that's a challenge right now. The trees in the distance are bent in the wind. And since trees symbolize family, this is a reminder that everyone in the family, including the entire family of man, is being forced to bend with the new awakening. Those trees are small and distant. They're really tiny, which represents the need to let go of what family thinks and develop your own ideas and clarity first. First, you. So this hints that maybe later there will be integration issues and relationship issues to come. But first, you must know thyself. Know thyself. And when you do that, it becomes easier to integrate and work with others. The Page of Swords calls each of us to bring everything we've got to the table and to think beyond our usual limits. It encourages us to have enough courage, enough guts, enough internal strength to trust ourselves. And this card warns explicitly against gullibility and ignorance. You can't ignore what's happening. The red boots indicate a lot of work, heavy work. And the work with it will be driven by passion. And that's internal work as well as external work. Boots always symbolize heavy work. The work will likely be driven by passion, possibly blood, and a need to heal. The blue mountains on the right side of the horizon represent a world of many challenges coming. Lots of challenges on the horizon, hence the need to get clear and continue awakening. This card is known as the Lord of Rushing Thoughts. And keywords for the Page of Swords are news, opinions, messages, gossip, study, new learning, tangible reality, intellect, the Americas, get clear, America, decisive action to rebuild, improving what has been corrupted or destroyed, observation, aggressiveness, practical, and wise. Question number 2. There's a lot of talk about disclosure coming soon. If and when that occurs, what is the best way for us to recognize and deal with ETs and what they represent? Because, man, they would represent a big change. So the card drawn in response to this question was the Lovers, number 6 in the major arcana. This is one of the more complex cards in the tarot deck. A lot of people just look at that and it's like, oh, romance. Yeah, no. The most basic message of this card is this will be one of the greatest moments in life. Wow, that's quite a statement since we're asking about how to recognize and deal with ETs and the idea that there are others in our universe. Ooh, that would be one of the greatest moments in life. Okay. The Lover's card is often thought of as having to do with romantic love and sexuality, but it is much more extensive than that. Not only does it signal a return to paradise, which we lost a long time ago, it goes back millennia to represent the great light of God or source, the forces of creation and destruction, and the challenge to every single human to enter that great light and be transformed into a new kind of human, new kind of being. So this suggests that recognizing the presence of ETs and dealing with what they represent will open us to a new view of the forces of life, the life in ourselves, and our potential. So might this hint at the possibility of creating a new earth as a paradise for all? Ooh, wouldn't that be nice? When you look at the card, you see a huge sun filling the top of the card. The sun is the symbol of God, the Godhead, whatever you want to call that great force that creates us all, that we're all made of. So the sun is the symbol of God. And what you see is that half of that sun is outside the frame of the picture, indicating that we have no real concept of what God or source really is. The sun is bright yellow, and that points to we have an intellectual grasp of God much more than an experiential one. Just below the sun is a large angel with huge red wings that also extend outside the frame of the picture. This is the angel Raphael. He has red flames and green leaves in place of hair, and he wears a voluminous mantle of purple around his shoulders. His hands reach out to left and right as if to gather the people below, and a large dark gray cloud with red streaks in it is below him. A naked woman stands on the left, a naked man stands on the right, and the ground beneath them is green. An olive tree with a serpent wound around the trunk is behind the woman, and a tree of fire is behind the man. The sky is bright blue, and there's a very tall red mountain that comes to a single sharp peak in the center behind the man and the woman. So, in looking at this card, it appears that the humans on the ground have a mass of clouds and then an angel between them and the light of God above. The mass of clouds symbolizes cloudy ideas and lack of understanding, as well as the shadow side of life. Information about people from elsewhere in the universe or the galaxy has long been hidden in the shadows. This, plus the red streaks in the clouds, points to a problem of often unruly passions and unruly thinking, coupled with great surprise, the blood of war, and an inability to forgive. Ooh. The woman and the man symbolize the forces of creation and destruction. And this is echoed in the trees directly behind them. The olive tree behind the woman is the ancient symbol of life, fertility, and nature. It is sometimes called the tree of life. The serpent wound around the tree symbolizes the fact that the ancients recognized energy and the spirals of frequency as the basis of life in all things. This was the generative principle. Women were said to generate life. The tree of fire behind the male was the ancient symbol of recognition that all material things eventually degenerate and die. Fire is a symbol of transformation. This was called the destructive principle, and that tree was sometimes called the tree of knowledge of all things. So these two principles are also symbolized in the red flames and the green leaves that have taken the place of hair on the angel. This is telling us that we have not yet found a balance between these two forces, the generative principle and the destructive principle. We waste time and energy flaunting both forces. We just don't get it. War is part of the destructive principle, but we often fight mindlessly, causing more destruction than necessary. We also continue to generate things that take a lot of time, energy, and money to maintain. So might people from elsewhere in the galaxy have learned how to balance these two forces a little better? Might they know how to generate things that last much longer, including themselves? How would we deal with that? The nakedness of the man and the woman represents both the need to stop lying to the self. Stop lying to the self. Can I say it a third time? Stop lying to yourself. And it also represents the fact that a higher consciousness brings gifts like clairvoyance, clairaudience, telepathy, things like that. When these gifts become part of a civilization, there are no secrets and there's no way to hide the self. So if ETs are announced and allowed to move among the humans of Earth, it would be quickly obvious that deception is out of the question. People with a more advanced consciousness see through that immediately. The angel represents a messenger of higher consciousness and healing. Raphael is a symbol of the healer. And this tells us that we may need to heal our ideas of the world, the whole world, including the one we create, as well as the one we live in. So let me say that again. It tells us we have to heal our ideas of the world, the one that we live in, if we are going to address disclosure in the presence of ETs. So what does heal the world mean? To heal is to make whole and complete. And this says that our ideas of the world and people from elsewhere in the universe are neither healthy nor whole and complete. That purple mantle, the angel wears a purple mantle. That mantle represents the willingness to shoulder, to take on, to wrap ourselves in the burden of responsibility for consciousness of a higher order. And the angel's hands reaching out to both sides of the card symbolize creating a bridge between the generative principle of life and the destructive principle. Those gigantic red wings that extend out of the picture represent two things. One is unlimited possibilities, and the other is the need to keep the practical in balance with the potentials and the possibilities. The wings warn against wandering around in delusions that have no basis in reality. Since many people do not believe in the possibility that ETs exist, it'd be a big challenge for them to keep their minds in balance if disclosure were to happen. This is backed up by that tall red mountain with a single peak. It represents the massive challenge that we would face if disclosure were announced. In closing, the message of the Lover's card is that there are two main barriers to recognizing and dealing with disclosure. One is the need to rise above cloudy thinking, symbolized by those clouds, and to reach for higher consciousness, symbolized by the angel. This would allow us to meet the ET presence with an attitude of confidence, love, and some understanding, at least some understanding. The other need is to keep ourselves and our lives in balance, because the appearance of ETs would destroy old ideas of the world and necessitate the development of a whole new worldview and a whole new understanding of the cosmos. So keywords for the Lover's card are release, paradise, bridge between worlds, love, sexuality, bridge between forces, feelings of failure, beauty, trials, trials overcome, immortality, destruction, passions, fertility, blindness, and action arising from a love of life. Okay, question number 3. What do the cards have to say about artificial intelligence and robots? So I had to chuckle when I saw the 6 of Cups card come up in answer to the question about AI and robots, because the message here is this is a card of illusions and truths, a two-faced situation that offers protection, but also says beware of control. Ooh. Can I say that again? This is a card of illusions and truths around AI and robots, illusions and truths. It's a two-faced situation that offers protection, but also says beware of control. Cups are always about emotions, longing, beliefs, and inner convictions. And this card says something wonderful is being offered, but we may not be able to handle it. Ooh. When you look at the card, you see 2 figures. The one on the left is a large dwarf who wears a red hooded mantle, a blue coat, and is handing a cup with a flower in it to the figure on the right. The figure on the right is small, like a child, wears an orange scarf, a polka dotted coat, a white glove, and has 2 faces, one of a young woman and one of an old woman. The side of a table or a cupboard behind the dwarf is decorated with a shield having a large X carved onto it. A watchman with a staff can be seen at the far left side of the card, and he has his back to us as if he's walking away. 1 cup sits on the table or the cupboard, whatever that is, and 4 more cups are lined up across the lower front of the card. Each cup has a flower and leaves from a thorn apple tree in it. And the buildings in the ground all around are yellow, while the sky is a very light blue. The 6 of Cups is a card that tells us something is being offered to us. And indeed, artificial intelligence is now available for everyone to use. This card says that what is offered is good, but it's important to pay attention to what comes with it. The dwarf with that red hood symbolizes something from another dimension is being offered. Something from another dimension. Dwarves are from another dimension. This opens the door to that dimension and invites us in. However, the thorn apple blossom is a witch's herb that is both poison and medicine. And depending on how it is used, it may have a bewitching effect on our lives, or it can kill you. In other words, AI and robots can be wonderful or can bring the downfall of everything. This message is bluntly backed by the small woman with the 2 faces. The face of the young woman reaching for the cup represents, yes, I'll take it, thank you. But the face of that old woman looking away and wearing a white glove on her hand represents, no, thank you. I think we should be cautious of this because it will disrupt the elegance and the gentility of natural life. Wow. The watchman with the staff has his back to the dwarf and the woman. He appears to be not watching, not paying attention. So this brings a strong message of you're on your own making this decision. Nobody's watching over you. Nobody's going to warn you that this could be a mistake. So his inattention carries a warning that says there could be big changes as a result of this AI offer. And because he is at the far left edge, very far left edge of the card, it tells us that the routines, the lifestyles, and the viewpoints associated with the past might be completely lost. In the picture, the dwarf is much bigger than the small woman. And this tells us that the introduction of AI and robots is a huge change that will dwarf the people and their culture. The orange scarf says that some people are very excited about this development, but that polka dotted coat indicates a much larger number are still uncertain. Kind of spotty. The large X on the shield at the side of the table symbolizes that AI and robots represent a serious crossroads for our planet and our people. The X says that this one particular offering marks this one moment in time and space from which there is no going back. X marks the spot in time and space. No going back. Wow. The yellow ground and all those yellow buildings emphasize that the use of artificial intelligence and robots should be carefully thought through because it will completely change the way we see ourselves, live our lives, and see the world. Now, this could be either good or bad, depending on how AI and robots are used. The encouragement that comes with this card is the promise of a world that allows time for the individual to enjoy life in ways that did not exist previously. The warning is that it might bring a deep nostalgia, as well as a yearning for past joys and the simplicity of the old days. The number 6, that numeral 6, is associated with deep connections to Mother Earth and an urge to stabilize things, especially with Mother Earth, and the willingness to go deeply into the self in order to retrieve the natural man or natural woman hidden deep within you. Go inside. That may be the thing that is necessary to balance AI and robots, is that deep connection to Mother Earth. So the 6 of Cups is associated with a sign of Scorpio and is known as the Lord of Pleasure. Keywords for this card are sharing, transition, fluid, adaptable, kindness, harmony, antiquity, the past, purposeful, things that vanish, memories, success, compassion, escape from difficult circumstances, poisonous cup, and responsibility. Okay, question number 4. Everything feels uncertain, chaotic, and out of balance. So what advice does the animal kingdom have for us to help get back in balance, stay centered, and remain confident in getting to a world of peace, fun, and stability? And the card drawn here was the fox, number 25 in the animal medicine deck. So, like I said, we have gotten messages from some pretty powerful animals over the past 7 months, and the fox is no exception. So I hope we are listening. Since our question is how to get back in balance, stay centered, and maintain confidence in reaching a stable world, the appearance of the fox and his message is somewhat unsettling. That message says there will be a need to develop camouflage and invisibility because a new world is opening up and the process of creation is beginning. Wow. Think about that. There will be a need to develop camouflage and invisibility because a new world is opening up and the process of creation is beginning. That would strike me as, that sounds good, but he's saying, well, watch out, not too fast. So in reflecting on this, I at first thought, why would we need camouflage to create a new world? However, the process may not be as smooth and easy as we imagine. I don't like to raise the prospect of trouble, but Fox's message hints that there may be efforts to discourage people from creating a new way of living and to cut off resources for those who do not comply with rules, whether they're old rules or new rules, designed to enforce compliance. So those hoping to do something on an alternative basis may run into some problems. Says the fox, the ability to meld into one's surroundings and be unnoticed is a powerful gift and allows one to observe the activities of others. And that fits right in with this card, the first one that we drew, which says, it's time to get clear and to watch and learn. So this card is a signal, the fox is a signal that the world is shape-shifting right before our eyes. And in times of chaos, the ability to go unnoticed would be quite a useful skill. When the fox shows up, it's a sign that we are to become like the wind, unseen yet able to move through any location or situation without being seen. I think that means you don't want to become a target. This animal tells us, keep silent, watch what people do, and use your own brand of cunning in a positive way. You know, to keep yourself safe and alive and well. Given the question we are asking, does this mean that the uncertainty and the chaos gets worse before it gets better? The fox is also deeply associated with psychic ability, especially clairaudience. It symbolizes the practical use of any kind of intuition and the ability to manage sharp, unexpected turns in life with a degree of gracefulness in which unwanted events are not necessarily unexpected. Kind of like says, be ready for anything. This animal has extraordinary stamina and can move at a steady pace indefinitely. Indefinitely. It's amazing. Sometimes breaking into a run and then slowing to a trot in order to keep going. The fox also symbolizes the fact that everyone has hidden gifts, and sometimes those gifts pop into use and application when needed. A fox can climb a tree much like a cat when it is hunting or being hunted. This is quite extraordinary and is a reminder that if you can remain focused and intentional, letting yourself respond outside of your normal box of behaviors when you need to respond swiftly, you can often rescue yourself and others as if you're doing nothing more than brushing your teeth or sweeping the floor. The fox is born deaf and blind, kind of like a lot of people in the world today. But as it grows up, it moves from the crippling limitations of blindness and deafness to the exact opposite, in which they have extraordinary eyesight and hearing. This symbolizes our need to recognize that as we mature, our senses of seeing and hearing must become very sharp. The fox is a survivor, and these sharp senses, along with great instincts, are the reason why it survives. It goes out of its way to avoid danger. It goes out of its way, do you hear that? To avoid danger. So never mind worrying that someone will accuse you of being a coward. It's much worse to be a fool, says Fox. The final message of the fox is quite blunt and very relevant for all of us today. Here's how the fox behaves. It allows itself to be seen by its prey, but then it acts in a way that is completely distracting, sometimes jumping, rolling around, chasing its tail, but all the while it is performing in such an interesting and unusual or unlikely way. It's moving closer and closer. Suddenly, it makes a leap and catches the prey who did not have time to react and did not keep a defensible distance between them. The message from Fox is, don't allow yourself to be distracted to the point that you let the enemy get too close and capture you. Keep your distance. Keep your ears up. Keep your eyes open. Learn to become invisible. Practice the art of camouflage. Act at dawn and dusk. Wow. So that's it for this tarot. So let's do a quick review and summarize the questions in the cards. Question number 1, what is the next step in the Great Awakening taking place on Earth? The card drawn here was the Page of Swords, which carries 2 messages. Hold on to what brings you clarity, and you are sovereign. And you're developing a masterful, innovative way of dealing with the aerial forces of life. The aerial forces of life are the pool of thoughts, perspectives, words, ideas, and messages that give meaning to our lives and that shape the direction we're going in. What this is telling us is that our next step is to get clear, remain clear, and remember that we are the sovereign beings shaping our destiny. And what we are learning at this step in the process is how to recognize the way media, propaganda, ideology, and words affect us. We are learning to recognize that someone's trying to manipulate our feelings using words, media, messages, etc., because they know that feeling drives thinking and thinking drives action. Implied in this card is that we're still learning and no action is required yet. Question number 2, there's a lot of talk about disclosure coming soon. And if and when that occurs, what is the best way for us to recognize and deal with ETs and what they represent? And the card drawn here was the Lovers, number 6 in the Major Arcana. This is one of the more complex cards in the tarot deck. A lot of deep hidden meaning. Its most basic message is, regarding ET disclosure, this will be one of the greatest moments in life. Whoa. That's quite a statement. The Lover's card is about much more than romantic love and sexuality because it signals a return to paradise, hinting that perhaps our connection with ETs will open us to a new view of the forces of life, the life in ourselves, and our potential. Might this hint at the possibility of creating a new earth as a paradise for all? This card tells us that we would likely have to raise our consciousness in order to deal with more advanced beings, and that we would need to understand the idea of God differently. That's quite a big task for a lot of people. Question number 3, what do the cards have to say about artificial intelligence and robots? And the 6 of Cups came up in answer to the question, which is a card of illusions and truths. It indicates something's being offered, but it's a two-faced situation that offers protection on the one hand and a warning on the other. The warning is beware of control. Cups are always about emotions, longings, beliefs, and inner convictions. And this card says something wonderful is being offered, but that we may not be mature enough to handle it. The dwarf symbolizes that something from another dimension is being offered, or something that will allow us to move into another dimension is being offered. But it may dwarf us and our culture. Nevertheless, it opens the door to that dimension and invites us in. However, the thorn apple blossom is a witch's herb that is both poison and medicine, depending on how it's used. So the Six of Cups warns that AI and robots may have a bewitching effect on our lives. In other words, how they are used could be either wonderful or could bring the downfall of everything. Choose carefully. And question number 4, everything feels uncertain, chaotic, and out of balance. So what advice does the animal kingdom have for us to help get back in balance, to stay centered, and remain confident that we can get to a world of peace, fun, and some stability? And the fox, number 25 in the animal medicine deck, is the card that came up with a big message that is somewhat unsettling. It says, there will be a need to develop camouflage and invisibility because a new world is opening up and the process of creation is beginning. So you might ask, why would we need camouflage to create a new world? Because the process may not be as smooth and easy as we imagine. Fox's message hints that there may be efforts to discourage people from creating new and alternative ways of living that suit themselves. The powers that be may try to cut off resources for those who do not comply with rules, whether old or new. And it says, the fox says, the ability to meld into one's surroundings and be unnoticed is a powerful skill and allows one to observe the activities of others. Fox goes on and is quite blunt in telling us, don't allow yourself to be distracted to the point that you let the enemy get too close and capture you. Keep your distance. Keep your ears up. Keep your eyes open. Learn to become invisible. Practice the art of camouflage. Act at dawn and dusk. So that is the end of this month's tarot. I hope you found it helpful. And I like that advice from the fox. Keep your ears up, keep your eyes open, and practice the art of camouflage. Maybe the fox is seeing something coming close now that makes his message quite relevant. So have a wonderful month. Enjoy the spring. Happy April Fool's Day. And take care of yourself first. Much love.